Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we're talking about magnet fishing. Well, what in the name of a cut above woodworkings is magnet fishing? Guys, there are some of you out there that may have heard of this. There are some of you that may not have, and that's why I'm bringing it to you today. Now, I've seen on the internet for quite some time a big kind of, I think it's a trend. I don't know how long this has been around, but it's kind of semi-new to me, a couple years anyway. And it's called magnet fishing. And what people do is they take these powerful rare earth magnets, they attach it to a rope, they fling it into a body of water, and then they drag it along the bottom until it clicks onto something metal, and then they drag it in from there. And basically you see what you got at the end. It can be anything. It could be a paper clip. It could be, well, it could be a fishing lure. It could be a knife. It could be anything like that. It's railway spike. You name it. People throw a lot of crap in the bottom of our waterways, and you never know what you're going to find. So let's go through some of the equipment that I used here for my wife and I to do a bit of magnet fishing. Well, magnet fishing wouldn't be magnet fishing without your magnets. And I have two of these things. I have this guy right here, which is a single magnet. It's just the one magnet on the one side. This one's rated for 290 pounds of pull force. Now this one here, this is a larger double-sided magnet, and this one is much more intense. It's rated for 660 pounds of pull force. Bottom line here is that these are very strong magnets. Do not get them close to your electronics. Do not get them close to things that you don't want attracted to them. Keep a good 6 inches at all times from that sort of stuff. Now, when you use these, you will end up getting this kind of stuff. It looks like dirt. This is not dirt. This is metal deposits and that sort of thing that are down in the soot, or the silt rather, of the body of water that you're magnet fishing in. You can see there how it attaches to this stuff. It looks very much like dirt, but it is not. See that? That is metal filings. Where they come from, who knows? They're mineral deposits in the water. They could be in the dirt itself. There's iron ore and iron ore deposits in all kinds of dirt and surfaces. So don't be surprised if this stuff gets on your magnet. It cleans off rather quickly and rather easily after it dries. If you try to get it off while it's wet, you end up just smearing it around. But you can see here when it's dry, it is quite easy to just brush off of the magnet and clean it up. So there you go. You will need, for starters, I'm getting a little sidetracked here, you will need some magnets. Well, the next thing that you're going to need to do some magnet fishing is some rope. And this stuff here is really nothing special. I just went to the big box store and I purchased basically some polypropylene braided rope. It's, some of you might call it paracord because it's pretty much what it is. It's nothing special. I think this stuff here is 1/4 inch diameter. And it's very, very strong. The polypropylene braided rope is extremely strong. So if you should snag, you can get some really good pressure pulling on this rope and not have a fear of snapping it off like you would with some of the nylon ropes. Either way, you'll need some of it. I bought 100 feet for one of the magnets, and the other magnet came with some, and that came with 60 feet of rope, I believe it was. But either way, you need some kind of strong braided rope in order to retrieve your magnet after throwing it into the water. Some people like to use locking carabiners for their magnets, and you would basically take your magnet, you would place it onto your locking carabiner just like this in your loop, and then you would tighten this little threaded cap, there you go, and now that cannot open. I don't really like this method. I've tried it, my wife has tried it. I'm not a big fan. It's kind of clunky, and for me and for my purposes, it doesn't really work. So let me show you how I like to attach my ropes. So in order to attach our rope here, it couldn't be simpler. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take our rope, we're going to run it through the ring of our magnet till about a foot, I'd say. And then, this is the simple part, loop it over and tie a knot. Now we want to try to keep it as neat and as tight to the ring here as possible. So we're just going to continue to form it close to, there we go, just like that. And we'll attach it here to this steel disc just to hold it for me. There we go. And then you can play with this knot and get it tight the way that you want it, just like that. There we go, that's pretty good. And now these ends here, what I like to do is I like to use simple electrical tape. And all I'm going to do is take some black electrical tape, it can be whatever color you like, if you want to make it red to match your rope. Pull this tight, the rope tight, so that there's no slack in it. And then we're going to spin the electrical tape, pulling tightly with each wind. So pull, wind, just like this, all the way to the end. And now when we get to the end of the rope here, we'll do a couple more winds, and then we're going to backtrack all the way up to the top. And then once we get to the top, there's a lot of people that like to cut this and then try to attach it. It doesn't, electrical tape sticks better when you stretch it. So what you want to do is put your finger perpendicular to it and stretch it and pull until it snaps. And that then will adhere really nicely on the, excuse me, on the back. In fact, you'll probably have a hard time finding it if you want to take it off. And that's it. That is our rope now attached to our magnet. With our rope attached, I have told you already to make sure that you keep these magnets away from anything that you don't want attached to them. Now this is the smaller of my two magnets at 290 pounds of pull force, but just watch this, watch this. I'm gonna pull that bench over before that magnet's gonna let go. So if you hook onto something or something metallic underwater, if it's within a couple inches of this rope, I'm going to tell you, there we go, finally, I'm going to tell you that it's going to click on there and it's going to hold. So you just want to be careful, guys. Magnets can be dangerous. If you have two of them, they snap together, they could pinch your skin, they can cause some damage. So just be careful with magnets that are this powerful. Well, there's a couple more things that you may want to consider for magnet fishing, and one of them is this. And these are kind of heavy-duty padded rubber gloves. They are not necessary. You do not need these, but they do a couple things. One thing that they do is they keep all that slime and silt and stuff, because you will stir up some slime in the bottom of that water. They keep all of that off your hands as well as the metal filings. Something else they assist with is wet rope will give you blisters faster than you can blink your eye. So it helps with that rope from abrading on the side of your hands, causing blisters. Now I can see in these ones there's already little slits and that sort of thing. These were brand new when we used them for our magnet fishing adventure, and they already have a few little tears in them and that sort of thing. So those tears would have been on our hands if it weren't for these gloves. The next thing that you may want to consider is one of these, and that is a cheap little 5-gallon pail. This is both to carry your wet gear in so it's not all over your vehicle, and as well, if you do find any treasures, you want something to put them in where they're not going to get all that soot and crap and everything else, or the silt rather, and mud all over your stuff. So a cheap little 5-gallon pail is a great way to go to put your stuff in. One little bucket, you carry it along to do your magnet fishing. When you're done, you throw all your stuff inside and away you go. Well, how do you do magnet fishing? Guys, this doesn't sound like much, but basically find yourself a body of water. Now my wife and I went and took a little hike over to basically an area that I grew up in where there is a pond. This is a man-made pond in this case, and there's quite a bit of wildlife around there, but you want to get to the edge of the bank here, and bottom line is you want to just fire the magnets out into the water. Now, I tried one method at first where I would coil all the rope in the one hand and then fire or sling the entire coil out into the water. And that kind of worked. Unfortunately though, the coil would sometimes get snagged in midair and it would kind of just thunk, and it didn't work as well as I would have liked to. So what I started to do was coil the rope into a neat little pile beside me and then just sling the magnet. There is enough weight that it just peels the rope off out into the water and away it goes. I got much more distance with that method than what I would, just throwing the coil. It worked much better. One thing I will caution you on though is you want to be careful that your whole coil doesn't zip away from you, because you will end up having to race for it and possibly get wet to retrieve it. I was lucky enough that I grabbed this before it got out of my reach, but that could have been disastrous. It was really funny at the time, and my wife and I had a good laugh at that, but you want to make sure that your coil of rope is either tied off to something or far enough behind you or under your foot in some way secured, so that if that rope should snag like what mine did, it's not going to take your whole coil, your magnet, and everything with you. Not only does it now become an environmental hazard, you've now lost your magnet and your rope. So another thing here is that, well, you know what? Sometimes you get a snag. And you know those times when you're out actually fishing and you end up with a snag or a bird's nest in your in your line? Well, especially with a bait caster reel, those are famous for the bird nests. But anyway, these bird nests of the rope, they're much more manageable than the small line. Much more easy to untangle. They look unruly, they look huge, they look like a mess, but they're actually quite funny, and they're very easy to undo. So there's a plus right there. The other thing you want to be careful of, don't slip. Don't slip. Look at the look on her face. It's like, ooh, I almost fell in. That would have been so funny, but she didn't. But be careful, because as you're magnet fishing, as you're throwing those lines out there and pulling them in, the ground around you, and in our case it was dirt, is getting more and more slick. It is getting slippery, and eventually it becomes like a skating rink. So you want to be really, really careful of that. Be careful of your traction. Don't slip and get too close to the edge and fall in. That would not be good. So the bottom line here is my wife and I spent quite some time out there at the edge of the water here, flinging our magnets out into the water. We met up with some old friends from the neighborhood as well while we were there, and ended up having a little chat with them, which was fun. And there was all kinds of people who were interested in what we were doing. They would come over and ask us, what are you guys doing? One thought we were measuring the depth of the water. One thought we were doing some environmental thing. No, we are looking for metal that people have thrown in the bottom of this water. Now, so all this fun, all this time we spent there talking to people and laughing and slipping and getting knots and that sort of thing. What did we find? What did we find in the bottom of this pond? We found this. A bag of magnetic silt. That is all we found. Now that is good and it's bad. It's good in that it doesn't look like too many people are throwing a lot of metallic trash into into our little pond there. It's bad because it was kind of an uneventful day. However, it was an awful lot of fun, and we will be trying this with other bodies of water. So while we did not actually find anything in the bottom like we were hoping, honestly, it was a great time spent with my wife. We had a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. We got some fresh air. No harm, no foul. For the cost of a couple magnets and a little bit of rope and a few hours in the afternoon, honestly, guys, this is more fun than I should be allowed to have. And you know what, you should really consider giving this a try. Guys, I hope that you've enjoyed today's show. It's a little short one. It's something very different. It would have been a lot longer had I actually found something. I could have shown you what I found, maybe cleaned it up. But we will be trying different bodies of water. And I will be bringing the camera along. If by some chance we end up clicking on or finding something that's worth reporting back, of course you will see it here on the show on a Tuesday episode. But until then, all I can tell you is that we had a great time, and you should really give it a try. This is one of those things that could be fun for young ones to give a whirl to. You would have to cast the magnet out and let them pull it in and have the fun of waiting to see, you know, what's on the end of it. Even if it's nothing, sometimes playing in the mud like that to a young one, that's some of the best times ever of my childhood. Playing and, well, you know, eating mud, but other than that, get your kids out there and give this a try, guys. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. We have a heck of a lot of fun here every single week, and I hope you're gonna, you know, consider becoming a part of that. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in this week. I hope you've enjoyed the content, something a little different. I know it's not for everybody, but someone out there may enjoy the information. I'll post the links to those magnets down below if you want to give this a try. But until then, guys, I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another Alternative Tuesdays.